Welcome back to Beyond Recovery. And my guest tonight is John. John, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man. No, I'm excited to do this interview. Just one of the guys, there's so many wonderful people in the Instagram sober community. And yeah, some of your posts were definitely catching my eye as far as, just some of the stuff that you're bringing up. I love your presentation on Instagram. Of course, we'll link it in the show notes here, but excited to that we were able to work this out. And you're calling in from the mountains of Pennsylvania, right? What's the area again? I already forgot the name. I'm not huge.
The Pocono Mountains. Yeah. So I'm located in Dingman's Ferry, Pennsylvania.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are
pretty much. It takes us 45 minutes to get to like a supermarket.
No way. Oh, you're a bit out there then. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's really great.
It's good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. How was that during? I guess it's not much of a change during the pandemic. Like you're not near anyone, anyways.
No, it was kind of a joke. My life didn't really change too much when it first started, when everybody was like, quarantined and everything. And I was like, wow, this is kind of like what I do day to day.
Yeah, right. Right.
This is my primary gig, my full-time job, I guess, if you want to say that, quote unquote, is I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad right now.
Nice.
Yeah. So at the time I was like, well, this is kind of what I do anyway. Right. So,
yeah. It's not much different. So what is it like with, and you have the is it two boys?
Two boys.
Two boys. Yep. Nice. Okay. Yeah. So two boys. And how do they like living and being raised in the mountains? That's gotta be amazing. It's like a dream.
They love it. I mean, we live in a gated community, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
So we have our own like security and so forth.
Yeah.
Not like anybody's going to be breaking in, knock on wood.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe a bear, maybe a black bear or something.
Yeah.
But it's great. Like we have a few lakes that you can kayak and swim and
beautiful.
And we have a couple pools and there's all sorts of trails and hiking around the area. So we're very outdoorsy people.
Yeah, no kidding.
And,
so what?
Yeah.
What led you guys up to, like, had you yourself had your eye on living in this area for a while, or like what? I'm just curious, what led you guys to this particular location that you're living in?
Job. My wife,
nice. Oh, okay. Yeah.
She secured a job up here for elementary band.
No way.
She's a band teacher. Yeah, we're both musicians. We both went to school for music. Yeah.
What do you play?
I'm a trumpet player. I'm a professional trumpet player. Yeah.
No way. That's super cool, man.
Yeah.
And that's how you guys met, you said, eh?
Yeah, we met in my undergrad. She's 2 years older than me. She was a junior. I was a freshman. And I was just to like break her stones about it. Like she prowled me out, in the practice rooms. This like lone freshman. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, we met in the practice rooms, and we've been together all through undergrad. I moved in she found a job after she graduated in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania, which is close to Penn State University. I'm sure you probably heard of that.
I've heard it. Yeah, definitely heard that one. Yeah.
Everybody knows Penn State.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's close to Penn State. So I went there. I had 6 months to apply to graduate school because I wanted to continue with music, not music education, which we both did in my undergrad, but I wanted to go for just trumpet performance. So I lived with her for six months. And she wanted to then continue with her education. So she started applying to schools, and it just so happens that we got in separate schools. So it was kind of like a really dramatic time. It was a few weeks where we were like, oh no, what are we going to do? Like 4 years, 4 hours apart. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I can't live with her. I can't live without her. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can't live with her. Now I feel that way sometimes. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll cut that part
live without her. Yeah. She's not. Yeah. I'll let her listen to it. This.
Yeah.
And I realized that I couldn't live without her, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to propose. And then while we were away for at least 2 years, we'll have something to kind of look forward to. So I proposed, and we were engaged all through graduate school, which didn't make
Nice.
it really any easier, but it's like I said,
Yeah,
to look forward to. And
exactly.
then it was pretty much whoever got a job first. I also I mean, we can get into it too, but
Hmm.
I continue. I always had this dream of being Dr. Maurer, being a,
Oh,
yeah, in music. And so I continued and applied then again after I graduated from my master's. It just so happens to be at Penn State, where I did my master's degree.
nice.
Uh, yeah, it was a great experience. I applied to University of Iowa. I got into Iowa for a doctorate,
Wow.
but we were getting married and we had no money, and so my wife got a job in the Poconos,
Yeah,
and so kind of personal before professional type thing. So I kind of
sure.
had to bite the bullet, so to speak, and we all moved up here. We got married, and then we moved up here. Yeah.
Nice. Congratulations on on the wedding, obviously. That's that's good strategy though. Like if you guys are gonna be having some distance, like you say, it's a it's up in your commitment, and then it's giving you something to look forward to as well. So smart idea there.
Yeah.
So how long have you guys been together, like aside from the marriage, like beforehand and including the marriage? How long have you guys been together?
We've been together since 2008.
Wow.
What is that?
Yeah.
Is that can't do math. I'm a trumpet player, so
Yeah. Yeah. 14 years, 14 or
yeah,
15. Yeah.
almost 13. I think 13 years, almost 14.
14.
Yeah,
Yeah. Nice.
yeah,
Yeah. And how old are your boys now? They look like they're still pretty young gaffers there, are they?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, they're my oldest is 5, just turned 5 in February, and then
Nice.
my youngest just turned 1
Oh,
in March.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
Patrick and Arthur.
Right
Yeah,
on.
as
Shout
you
out to
can't
them.
tell, I'm very Irish, so we
Yeah.
picked very traditional Irish names.
Yeah, right on. It's cool. Like some of those like the old fashioned names are definitely making a comeback. Everything's cyclic, right? It's like
Yeah,
you get through the
yeah,
funky names, and then it comes back to the older classic names, which I prefer anyway. So yeah, good choices there for sure.
yeah.
Awesome, man. So a little bit of context, where you're, where you're living, a little bit about your family and such. But let's get into your story. Man. Like it's like the whole reason you're here, essentially, like your recovery story. So you're coming up on 3 years this year sober. But let's roll back the clocks to what was your first meeting with the seductive syrup known as alcohol. Like when did that come into your life? What did it look like? Was it like, did it run in your family? You mentioned Irish, so right away I'm part Irish. I know the Irish side of my family were big drinkers all the way up the
Irish
generations.
and German, Irish
Oh,
and German.
dude.
So
Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I can kind of see where this is going. So yeah, I'll let you take it, man. But just what paint the picture. What was that like for you growing up?
Um, so my first I guess memory with alcohol is with my father, my dad. Um, he had an issue with drinking
Mm,
growing up, binge drinking. At the same time, I remember actually, I had this vivid memory of us at a barbecue once and him drinking a beer and um, ask, asking me, do I want to try it? And I tried it and I hated it, which is funny now. Um, Life has a way of making things humorous, you know.
yeah,
I
for
figured that
sure.
out now that I'm older, like a circle, like
Totally.
um, and that was my first memory with alcohol. Um, as my childhood goes, I it was and I don't want to start off with being very depressing, but it was kind of a rough childhood, to be honest with you.
Mm.
My mother was sick the majority of it. My mother suffered from cancer all her life,
Oh man. Yeah.
and she had breast cancer. And then the last few years of her life, she had colon rectal cancer, and that's what she passed away from
Ah,
when I was 8 years old. Now
dude.
my dad stopped drinking, I believe a few years, at least two years before that, because it started, you know, getting to be an issue, especially with my mom being sick. And he stopped. I'm not sure. I never really talked to him about it, to be honest with you. If he went to any meetings or anything, but he stopped and hasn't really drank since. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Right on. Man, sorry to hear about your mom so early on in your, that's a pretty, influential time in your life. I mean, at any stage, it's going to be tough, but like 8 years old, man, that's
Yeah.
gotta be tricky. So sorry,
Yeah.
you had mentioned that your dad sobered up soon thereafter. Is that, I didn't catch.
Before it was about 2. I'm
Oh,
not entirely sure of the amount of years or the
yeah.
time period, but he stopped when it started becoming an issue.
Mm,
I remember sometimes him coming home drunk and getting in fights with my mother and that sort of, and I think it just started. He realized that it was not, he needed to put his family first,
right.
which is kind of a
Right.
similar situation of what happened to me as well. To be
Interesting.
honest, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get there. But before we do, so like you're okay. So that's kind of like your early memories, early family life. What did it look like when you got into high school? Or is it something that you're seeking out at that point? Like, were you the rebellious teenager? Like, how did that look for you?
Well, I'm going to answer that question and going back just a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
After my mom passed away, I found kind of an outlet. I kind of buried it. I never really talked about it, to be honest with you. Not with my family. I never really um, let it out, so to speak. Never really came to terms with her passing. Never really
Yeah.
understood why that had to happen because I was so young. So I found an outlet with music, really.
Mm,
Not necessarily playing music yet, but listening to a lot of music. Um, and in doing that and listening to a lot of music, and it was everything. And I'm still that type of person to this day. Like it could be, Snoop Dogg to Metallica to Johnny Cash to
nice.
like right now I'm into like the White Buffalo, but then Between the Buried and Me, and then like Coder Wall, and like it could be like from heavy metal to country to folk music.
Yeah.
I love the Hollow Coves, like it can be everything. And I was
Yeah.
like that from being 8 years old. The next year, we could try an instrument to pick in the school band, and I picked the trumpet, and that's when I started playing music. Started playing the trumpet. So then through grade school, like middle school and high school, I was always with that crowd. I was always with the music crowd because I was always a musician. I never really went down the athletic route at that time. I did like some wrestling sort of thing, but I was always with the musical crowd. So in high school, in middle school, I wasn't really the rebellious type of person, but in high school, I started kind of testing the waters, I guess you could say, when I was a sophomore. So I was maybe and 15, 16, maybe 16, 15
Yeah.
or 16. I went on a trip to Europe. It was called American Music Abroad, and it's with a band. It was kind of like connecting music worldwide,
Cool.
And yeah, it was very cool. I wish I was older and doing it instead of younger because, yeah, I don't think we really grasped the importance and the beauty of the whole situation of traveling to Europe, being 16
Yeah.
years old.
I could see that. Yeah.
But going over to Europe, you can drink that age. It doesn't have to be. It's not 21. I believe it's 16, right? Or is it? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. I think it
Yeah,
is like something like
yeah. You
quite
can buy
young in Europe.
alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And so we started drinking there with a couple of my friends. And I came home and started drinking at home in high school. But it wasn't too. It wasn't too over the top, I guess, if you want to
Hmm.
say. It was I never I wasn't going out every weekend. Like I said, I was with the music crowd and musicians, especially like the band kids, right? Marching band.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're very nerdy kids, we're very nerdy people.
Yeah.
We have very good grades, and I had very good grades all through high school.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, we started looking up to different musicians. So we kind of wanted to imitate those people, like
Sure.
Robert Plant and Jim Morrison and Duke Ellington, Miles Davis for me. And what did they all do is alcohol and drugs. So
Yeah.
we thought that was the thing to do, at least
Totally.
through high school. So yeah.
I can definitely relate to that. Like I played in not a like school band like that, but I played in a rock band, right? So when I got similar to you, like about 16, I was in athletics up until my parents divorced at 14, and by the time I was 16, I was full blown into playing guitar and trying to sing. I wouldn't call it
Awesome.
singing, but yeah, same thing, man. We'd listen to all, or like we'd read all the, the Robert Plant, like that Led
Mhm.
Zeppelin book where they just did the craziest stuff. Like there was
Wow.
no way they could even remotely come close to the stuff they used to do back in the day. And of
I
course, we think that's cool, right? So I
Yeah.
that totally resonates with me. We were just like, oh, these guys drink all the time. We got to drink now.
Oh
It's
my
just like
goodness. I
imitation.
remember I joined the rock along with being in the music department in high school and the band program. Um, I also joined a rock band to be a vocalist.
Oh,
Not
cool. Yeah.
a vocalist, but I wanted to be in a rock band, So I
Yeah.
joined,
Yeah.
and I remember religiously watching cassette, VHS. For all you
Yes.
kids out there,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what that is, but the tape, I had
Yeah.
The Song Remains the Same, the live concert,
Yeah. Love
that
that
they
one,
did, and
man.
I remember
Love it.
watching it and trying to imitate Robert Plant during because we would do covers, of Led Zeppelin and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I remember
Yeah.
trying to imitate watching it every single
Yeah.
day. Same thing
Right.
with of the Doors with Jim Morrison, like trying to be the
Right.
best. And then that started kind of bleeding into kind of their lifestyle, wanted to be in
Yep.
their, you know,
Yeah. I get
yeah,
it.
that was kind of the theme of really my life before I found sobriety. To be honest with you, I never um, found my. I always like to quote like I think it's from Emerson. It says, life's not about finding yourself; it's about creating yourself. All right.
I like
And
that. Yeah.
I was finding. I think that's the quote. Don't quote me on that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
dad jokes, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, Yeah, but I never really I was finding other people and trying to imitate other people, but I never really
Yeah.
created myself and kind of found my own path until I found sobriety. To be honest with you, I was always trying to imitate other people or be someone else than I was really was. And it started, like I said, like most definitely most present in high school. So.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I love that quote. Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna look it up just to make sure. Yeah, so that I get it right in the show notes. But yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, just it brings to mind though, like for sure, to me, like learning who you are or how to be yourself or however it may be, definitely is based on some like imitation, right? It's even as back as like early as when you're a child, you're imitating your parents because that's your way of communicating with them. So I think there's a natural way of learning that's innate in human beings to imitate what they
Yeah.
perceive as is what they either want to end up like, or so I think imitation is definitely mixed in that. So it's interesting you mentioned that for sure. And
Yeah, I
then
mean,
yeah,
if you look at, like, I mean, I have two boys too, and like we're always like, don't do this, don't do that, but do this and do that, and we're trying to like create little versions of us, and
right.
then when we
Yeah.
get to a certain age, we're like, no, go out and spread your wings, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, it's a little too late for that,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah, so it's I think it just starts from the beginning, really, kind of give I guess kids the chance to find out themselves, really.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that was one thing you mentioned, even in Europe, like they have the drinking age lower. It's almost like, to me, it feels like that would be a safe, in a sense, a safer way, because like you get out of your system early instead of having this like, because to me it was like this kind of thing. It was forbidden almost. You had to sneak around. You had to get an older guy to go in the liquor store for you and have a
Right.
fake ID or whatever, right? So whereas like in Europe, it's like, nah, man, it's like just try it. You're gonna get so drunk you puke and black out and at an early age and get that out of your system. And I have a few friends that are from like Italy or from different spots in Europe, and they're just like, yeah, I got that on my system early, like I'm good, right? And they don't have
Yeah.
any issues with it. But that's not everybody, but it's fascinating to think, right? And in the same vein as what you're mentioning is like, allowing people to, or little, their kids to kind of spread their wings earlier on in life and kind of find out where they.
Well, I always thought too, like, if you're able to go into the military, especially for the States, you should be able to.
Yeah.
Like, in the military, you can join the military at 18, I believe.
Right.
And they should, you should be able to, I guess, do whatever you want, really, right? If you're able to take a life, in the military.
Totally. I agree. I know where you're
There's
coming
no
from.
limitations, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get what you mean. One
Yeah.
other final comment on like the musician thing that I'm sure you can you relate to. I always found it funny. Like you say, when you look back on it, it's funny. At the time, you're kind of like, well, okay. You know, it's like musician is like one of the only jobs, if not the only job I can think of where they encourage you to drink on the job. Like when you're a performance, they're like, here, drink up, drink up. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like the entertainment for the night. Like you're paying me. And now you're also like giving me a bunch of fucking beers and shots before I go on stage. It's like, yeah, I always found that was a little bit fascinating. You're like, you know, drink up. I'm like, okay.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
get to
When it
drink on the
comes,
job.
I learned that, especially when I got older and through college, till I found sobriety. It kind of comes with the territory, and it shouldn't.
Right.
It
Right.
shouldn't at all. You
Right.
know.
Yeah.
I remember we can get to there whenever you want to. But
Yeah.
when I was in college, I was in a brass quintet, and we were working with a professional at the time. This is a professional, okay, a trumpet player. All right, does it
Yeah.
for a living.
Yeah. Yeah.
I won't say his name, but I remember him saying the hang is just as important as the performance. And as kids, we took it as we should drink a lot,
Yeah,
and hang
sure.
out a lot. And I think that was really the tipping point for me, anyway.
Interesting.
Or at least, it's not necessarily the tipping point. It was kind of like the lighter to the firecracker. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I
Kind
got
of
you.
like the fire that lit under my ass.
Yeah.
I was like, oh well, here we go, giddy up, let's go.
Yeah. It was like
And
permission almost, right? Like, okay, let's do
exactly,
this,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
point to where a year or leading up to my sobriety, I was looking forward more to getting hammered and
Yeah.
smashed, getting so fucked up
Yeah.
that I was completely forgetting about my performance.
Wow.
And I was doing, at the time before sobriety and to this day, but I was doing some pretty big and impactful performances, and I was looking forward more to drinking than I
Right.
was to actual performance.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is kind of the devil on the shoulder when it comes to a musician, where they can't forget why they're there,
Right.
and you're there to express yourself as a musician, because it's an art form, it's humanity, right? It's
Yeah.
human. So you're expressing yourself, but it's also to entertain too, and it's a job, do your job, and you're not there to do really anything else but that. And it's that was one of the big realizations I had, especially when I got sober, was wow,
Yeah.
um, I can't believe I was thinking more about the hang and getting drunk after the gig than the actual gig.
Yeah. It's for sure.
Like for instance, like I for a couple times I played the national anthem for the Philadelphia Phillies, which is
Wow.
Pennsylvania's main baseball team.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Major League baseball team, and it's a great honor, right? You would think,
Yeah.
be, and now I performed it last year too, and I was sober for last year's performance, and it was incredible. I was so excited for the gig, but before then, when I was an alcoholic and drinking, I was more excited afterwards, just so I can get a beer.
Yeah. I know. Okay. I know what you mean.
And actually performing for this is in front of like 10,000 people.
Yeah.
This is incredible. And
Yeah.
but I was more excited about drinking than playing. In that experience. So yeah.
So yeah, that's amazing. By the way, that you got to do the national anthem at a Phillies game, man. That's craziness. That's awesome, dude. So cool. So it's like I could find YouTube footage of you just like giving her like very easily.
Yeah, it's on Instagram. Yeah, too.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm gonna seek that out after for sure, dude. That's amazing. So when you would the specific performance that you were speaking of, not the one that you were sober beforehand though. So would you be sober at the time, but you were just so obsessed with getting through the performance so you could have some drinks, or were you a little bit pre-buzzed as well and then just like I'm gonna get this over? Like how far were you in at that point? And if you can't remember,
Well, I
just in
never.
general, would you have drinks before you would perform, or
No,
was
it
the
would
edge
be.
because you wanted to get through the performance so then you could drink?
Yeah. So my drinking pattern was always at night.
Gotcha.
So wee hours of the morning.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
I would quote unquote sober up, which, you know, drinking as much as I was, I would sober up until about the evening, right? Not
Yeah,
the day really.
yeah, gotcha.
Um, that was kind of my pattern. I would never really wake up in the morning and have a drink. That was not. I would never do that. I'm not. Yeah, yeah. My pattern was always, and it's funny. Well, not necessarily funny, but it's a lot different than what other people that I know that are alcoholics and drink and are now sober, and they talk to me about their story as well. But I would drink on the good days.
Mm,
I wouldn't necessarily drink on the bad days.
yeah.
You know, um,
Interesting. Yeah.
if I had a good day, um, it was, I had a good day with the family, or if I had a gig, you know, I would drink, and I would drink very heavily, and then the next day I would be so hungover, and that would be my bad day.
Mm,
Um, that I would try and get out of anything that I had for that day. I was losing,
yeah.
and then so forth. I was just losing opportunities and losing connections, losing friends, and almost lost my family
Mm,
doing that. And then the following day would be a good day, so I would drink again, and then
gotcha.
the pattern would
Kind of
continue.
just, yeah, stagger
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
got
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's always interesting to see how. So you used it as because some people, and I'm sure you like when you're talking to your friends as far as what their patterns were. It's interesting because everyone has sort of a nuanced, like there's some nuanced differences, right? So
Yeah.
some people use it for the opposite. Some people only drink when the bad days, and otherwise, like they use it as a coping mechanism in that sense. Some people,
Hmm.
I did both, good or
Yeah.
bad. I'm like, I'm good to go for whatever, or I was good to go. I should say that in past tense, very deliberately. But yeah, no. So we're kind of alluding to some of these issues that came up as far as like when this started really turning for you. Was there a specific incident that happened that you're like, man, this is it? Or was it sort of a accumulation of a few things and then finally you're just like, you had it? Like, what did that look like for you when you're finally just like, okay, that's it on, what is it, October 23rd, 2019, the days leading up or the weeks leading up? What did that look like for you?
Well, looking back, I think I've always, ever since college, really, and I um, was drinking heavily because of music, that happening. Um, it was always a lot. And then I went to graduate school. Um, I think being away from my wife, even though we were engaged, kind of increased my. So here's the thing: like we were just talking too. Like it's the drinking, not necessarily is the issue. The
Yep.
issue is how what it's covering up.
Totally.
You know?
100%. Yep.
That's the issue. Like
Yeah.
we're great drinkers, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have an issue drinking. Believe me, I'm a
Right. Right.
professional drinker. You know,
Yeah.
um, what I
Yeah.
have, like my issue is not coming forth of what's bothering me. Like my
Yeah. Okay.
getting depressed about certain things because of my anxiety and coming out with my stress and so forth. And if I don't come and face that head on, I'm going to bury that down deep, and that's just not good. That's not good for anyone. And I think it started with my mother. Like I said, I,
Sure.
I never really coped with that,
Yeah.
um, and I didn't face it head on. And since then, um, I everything that I would come across, I would always kind of bury down deep. And
Mm.
alcohol, kind of, there's always that saying like, you can always trust a drinker because they're so honest. Well, yeah, because that's what's covering all that's down. It's helping that need to kind of let it go. But
Yeah.
after a while,
Yeah.
then you're so dependent on, I think, that alcohol and that drink, that it kind of, like, it's vice versa. It's kind of doing more harm
Yeah.
I don't want to say good, but you know, it's not burying it down. It's just kind of increasing the trauma and the you
Yeah.
know, and this sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
but sorry, I lost my train of thought now. But
No, it makes sense what you're saying though, for sure. It's and that's where it started kind of turning on you. Like, so just to kind of, so I get what you're saying. Like, you're mentioning it's like initially it was a way to allow some of these
yeah,
feelings to come up,
coping,
but
yeah.
at some point it's like it almost works counterintuitively to what you knew it to have done beforehand. And in fact, it's like,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's piling on essentially on the trauma
Yeah.
side of things, right?
Yeah. So my graduate school. Now I know where I was going. Sorry.
Yeah.
My graduate school, being away from my wife for those 2 years, but still being engaged. I now looking back, I was drinking very heavily. I remember coming home to my apartment and always having a beer. Always,
Mm-hmm.
always having a beer. I remember my roommates looking at me and just like in awe, because you know every other day I would buy a 6-pack, or and you know, it wasn't too obsessive, but it was always a beer every
Right.
single night with dinner, you know.
Yeah.
uh to
John, sorry, we lost you a bit there. Oh, there we go.
there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I like you said you had a beer with dinner and then you kind of
Yeah.
dropped out. Sorry.
So like having a beer with dinner, or a
Yeah.
drink with dinner, and then you know, even that, starting with that, and then after I graduated from Penn State, my graduate school, and we moved to Milford. My wife, like I said before, you know, got a job in Milford, and it was kind of personal before professional with me. I don't think um, uh, I didn't face the decision that I made. Like, I made the decision and I knew I needed to make the decision, but I don't think I accepted the decision that I had to make
Mm.
about me moving here in support of my wife, and because of I wanted to be married to my wife instead of John wanted to.
Oh, dude, you dropped out again. Dang it. It was a good. Oh, it was good. You can hear me now, eh?
Yeah, I can hear you. There we
Damn, it
go.
dropped out. Uh, it was good. You had a good line. It's like it's like the difference between accepting a decision and making a decision.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't. I didn't face it. I didn't face that
Mm,
decision that I had to make, and I buried it down. You know,
right.
so moving here and married, you know, um, I was again kind of resentful of my wife, which didn't
Mm,
deserve that at all.
yeah, I got you.
I took out my situation because I didn't have anything. Living here, my wife had her job that she got, but because I gave up my doctorate, I didn't really have anything. You know,
Mm,
I didn't have a job, and I live in the mountains, you know, so there's
yeah.
not too many performing opportunities in the
Yeah,
mountains unless you want to
sure.
play for the, you know, the woodland creatures outside,
Yeah,
but they don't pay really well, you know.
that's right.
So it was really hard for me to try and find a job, and so I was very resentful towards her because even though it was my decision that I made,
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah,
and I never really came to terms with that at the time. Like I said, accepted my decision, and then more drinking happened, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I think moving here is kind of the pinnacle point of when I started drinking extremely heavy.
Mm,
Then what took place was I did get a job. It was at the American Music Theater in
wow.
Lancaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a dream job for me. It was a great paying gig, incredible opportunity, performing opportunity. But it was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is
Mm,
about 3.5 hours away, 4 hours away.
yeah, a bit of
This,
a drive.
yeah. Now the the schedule for my performance for the gig that I was doing at the time, it was like their Christmas show for the theater.
Cool.
Was so hectic that it was just impossible for me to drive back and forth. Like I wouldn't have been able to do that. So luckily, I did find a friend. It was actually my old roommate from my undergraduate, who lived in Harrisburg. And I asked if I could crash with him because I accepted the gig, and my wife agreed that I should accept the gig because it was a great gig. It was a dream job, and there's more money in the bank for us, and we could suck it up again, long distance and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
So what I did was Monday through Sunday I would stay in Harrisburg, or I'm sorry, Tuesday through Sunday I would stay in Harrisburg because we would have we would have a gig, we would have a show Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, 3 on Thursday, 3 on Friday, 3 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday.
Whoa. It's a
Yeah,
full
it's a
schedule.
lot of playing. Very
Yeah.
demanding. It's a very demanding chair for a trumpet player.
Yeah.
And then after the gig, the last gig on Sunday, I would travel back home to Milford. So I would spend Sunday night and Monday with my wife up here. This is before we had the 2 boys.
Yeah.
And then I would drive back Tuesday morning to do the gigs again. So I would do that. I was doing that for from October to December, like the end of I think it was New Year's Eve was our last gig.
Wow.
I think,
Yeah.
for that show. So I was doing that. Then my contract, because it was only half a contract, so my contract got renewed for the following year. Now the contract then would be from March to all the way to December.
Oh wow. Yeah. I'm doing the same kind of schedule.
Same kind of schedule.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the drinking aspect, it's
There we go. I think you're coming back in. There we go.
There we go.
Dang, eh? The mountains Wi-Fi. Hey, it hung in there pretty good. Like we're about 40 minutes in, so we can't. Yeah.
What was the last thing you heard there?
Yeah, so you're basically setting yourself up for the March to December. You confirmed it's the same kind of schedule.
Yeah, and on the drinking aspect is when it's even more started to increase because I was long distance with my wife.
Right.
We were just married, You paused again, didn't you?
No, I could still hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was long distance with my wife, and we were just married, so it wasn't like we were enjoying our first couple of months of the married life,
right?
Which was very depressing for me. I was quite depressed, to be honest with you, and I was drinking a lot more heavily. Man, I remember I would buy a whole bottle, just a bottle of scotch, and I would always buy the good stuff, man, like Macallan,
Yeah.
And then like drink the whole bottle, and then just say to myself, "Oh, I just really like scotch." No, that's not that. No, nobody likes scotch that much. You have an issue. You're covering up something with that. With that, you're in denial pretty much, and I was in denial. That's when it kind of started. Now, for the next contract, I did take, like I said, the gig, even though all that was taking place, both my wife and myself agreed that it was a great pay, it was a great gig that I should continue. We even talked about maybe getting an apartment in Lancaster, so it would be easier for us to travel back and forth and just having like two areas to stay. Then what happened was my wife got pregnant almost close to the end of the first spring show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I couldn't miss it. I couldn't miss. So what took place was I had to resign. Again, it was before professional, but at this time I accepted my decision, because I wanted to be there for, my wife and, be there for all the experiences of her pregnancy,
Sure.
Yeah, she's the one that obviously is experiencing the pregnancy, but, being a father, there's different things that you want to be there for, like the first ultrasound, which I had to miss because of the gig.
Wow.
So it was it was one of a blessing in disguise, I think. And so that's what took place. So then I moved back home. From that gig, I resigned. I believe that was in September or October. Yeah, it was right before then their Christmas show for the following year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was able to make then the second and third trimester with my wife at
Gotcha.
home,
Yeah.
be there
Yeah.
for sort of
Yeah.
thing. And my son was born the following year in February 2017.
February. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now through that, from March till October. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So through all that, from March through October,
Yeah.
can you hear me okay?
I can. Yeah. You froze up, but I could still hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Cool. The drinking really started coming to a head
in that March to October.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We were playing a show called Crooners. Okay, so like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin.
Nice.
And I embedded that role. If I played the gig, it was My Funny Valentine. I had this feature and a Michael Bublé type thing, and then I would go and I would have like a glass of Jack Daniels, and I was embedding that role. At the same time, what I was doing was I was just it was burying things down. I didn't really want to be away from my wife.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I had this picture perfect, picture or a perfect picture. There we go. Thanks.
Yeah.
It was a long day for me, so I'm like,
no, it's all good.
But in my head of this life that I wanted, and it just wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. I wanted the house and the children and the wife, and being married, and I wanted my own gig, but close to the house. I didn't want to be apart from my wife and part of these life experiences, and I wanted everything to kind of coexist, my career as well as my personal life, and it just wasn't happening. And so I didn't come to terms with that. So again, I was burying it down, with just a lot of drinking, a lot of alcohol. Showing up next morning completely hungover. I don't know how I made it through those gigs, to be completely honest with you.
Wow. Yeah.
I remember playing a show and then going back to the room that I was staying at and just, sleeping it off, and then going playing again, and then going drink again that night. And it was rough, it was a great show. It was a great cast, but that experience for me was quite depressing, I think. When I look back at it, I don't think I know, when I look back at it, it was quite depressing. I was quite depressed. That was drinking wise, I think that was a low point. Now here's the thing, what I realize now is the low points aren't when you change. A lot of us, I've hit rock bottom and low points a lot, since I actually found sobriety.
Yeah.
I didn't I didn't stop right then, even though it was pretty low for me. So yeah. That was, I think, the beginning. That was kind of a pivotal point during that time. Yeah. So my son was born in February. I was back home, and everything kind of slowed down a bit, especially with the drinking. I was still drinking. Don't get me wrong, but it slowed down quite a bit. Yeah.
So with the birth of your first son, I can see that. I can visualize it. Like what you're saying, it's like you have this life that you have envisioned, and it's just not quite lining up. Like you got in a sense, a dream job, you got this marriage, you got a kid on the way, but the worlds aren't aligning. It's not exactly how you envision. So as a result, with your I guess your learned behavior, for lack of a better term, dating back to your childhood with your mom, your barrier. So that's what you were doing. And you were using alcohol to then, get through kind of thing. Right. So it seems like, yeah, that just from what you're describing, that was like a real dark time for you when it could have, or should have, or however you want to frame it. Could have, it could have been like this dream situation, but it's just the things weren't lining up for you. So first son is born, things are starting to slow down. So that's basically between like 2017 and 2019. You got a couple of more years. What happened in those years before you finally were just like, boom, this is it. I'm done. I'm sober.
Well, I still wanted, after my son was born, I decided to be a stay-at-home father. Again, I understood why I had to make that decision, but I never accepted that decision.
Interesting.
So when people would ask me, what do I do for during the day, I would always lie to them. I would never say, oh, stay-at-home dad. Yeah, I was kind of embarrassed. I'm not sure why I was, because today I love being a stay-at-home dad. I'll tell everybody, I think it's such a noble job. I think, I'd ask people during the pandemic how long they could stand their children, during the day, it's a very difficult, it's a very difficult job, I think. And I hate saying job because it's not necessarily a job, it's, responsibility. Being a parent. But at that time I was kind of, I guess, embarrassed to say it out loud, because again, I had this picture perfect mindset of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. I wanted to be this professional international trumpet player and playing all these gigs and that sort of thing. A stay-at-home father,
Right.
And I think that what was taking place was I had that picture in my head, but there was, the big man upstairs, so to speak, had such a better plan for me, and he still does, that I now see, and instead of me getting out of my own fucking head, and seeing this beautiful thing that he was giving me, all these other things, these beautiful things in my life that he was giving me. I was like, no, you know what? Fuck you. I have a better idea. It's like, no, we don't, you have to accept. I think I'm more accepting now, I think today, being sober and of what is taking place in my life, and being so thankful and grateful and accepting to those things. But at the time, I was so much in my head and I was trying to be someone that I wasn't, So what took place was I continued trying to gig. So I was creating my own tour schedules with a good friend of mine. To this day is a very good friend. He's an incredible pianist that I went to school with. He would be my accompanist for these tours, I called them. In 2017, I did one. It was like a mini tour. So it was about 5 or 6 recitals or concerts. I was traveling all up and down the East Coast.
Cool. Oh, and you dropped out again. Damn. Can you hear me? You just launched into you were going to say you're doing a touring to the East Coast. You did a
there
6.
We go. We made it pretty far that time.
Exactly.
So it was the East Coast, and it was great.
Cool.
It was like a recital, so I was able to do that during the weekend, because I was a stay-at-home dad during the week, obviously, because my wife was working. She was a band director, and then I decided to make an album.
Nice.
I entitled the album "Songs for My Son."
Cool, man.
It was a concept album. It was dedicated, obviously, to my son Patrick, my firstborn.
Cool.
And throughout the album, it's a concept. So what it is it's kind of what a child goes through in life.
Nice.
With a perspective on my own life. So, I guess, grade school, having a sibling, all these different songs I was incorporating in the album had a certain theme, I guess. Sort of losing a loved one, like myself with my mother,
right?
Grandparents, finding love. So each song represented a certain thing.
Cool.
was a very uh, tedious project. It was a very difficult project because we did not have the money to do it. And God bless my wife, that um, I was like, oh, I need to buy copyrights. She was like, wait a minute, how much is that going to be? You know,
Yeah.
um, or and then now I got to buy. It's so much money putting an album. They don't, and then people don't realize how much work is actually put
Yeah.
in. Not
100%.
just
I agree with you.
not just pushing a button and recording,
Yeah.
but because it was me going through my own life and it was a concept album, I was kind of um, digging up a lot of old shit that I buried,
Yeah.
with alcohol, like the death of my mother, the love I had for my wife Sarah, um, and not necessarily like I said, coming to terms with that. Um, I was digging that up, but at the same time, I didn't want to deal with that. You know what I mean? So again, I started drinking even more because I didn't
Mm.
want to think about that too much.
Yeah.
I remember recording the one piece that is supposed to represent losing a loved one, and it's sometimes I feel like a motherless child. It's the piece that I
Mm.
picked to represent because I lost my mother and all that. I remember my accompanist at the time we were recording that piece, and he was like, "So John, tell me how this piece makes you feel." He was like, "I was like, you dick, like
Yeah.
like I don't want to think about that. I just want to perform this piece, even though like it's kind
Yeah.
of so because and with the album and the tours that I was doing, the drinking just started increasing and increasing and increasing so much more. That's when I started um, being more excited about the afterwards than the actual.
Mm.
I think I remember going for those weekend tours, like traveling to Virginia or going up to New York or whatever, doing the concert series. Um, I didn't. I was more excited hanging afterwards and just getting totally obliterated than performing those
Yeah.
concerts. That's when it really started for me with that. When the alcohol started interfering just pretty much with everything.
Mm.
That's when it most definitely started.
And that's
Uh,
kind of in that recording time period, the,
yeah.
the the concept album, along with some of
Hmm.
these mini tours that you're doing.
Yeah.
Again, something that it's so personal and such a, like you're saying with the big man upstairs, like you've been provided this opportunity, but yet there's still that
Yeah.
drinking that's
Oh
just
yeah.
flooding this experience for you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong too, though. Like, um, these concerts, they weren't great, Like
Mm.
some of them didn't pay, some of them were free will. So it's not
Sure.
like I was making too much money with it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Nothing against free will concerts. I've done plenty of them, but they
Yeah,
weren't.
exactly.
It wasn't even that. It wasn't. I was in denial. It wasn't even
Yeah.
what I wanted to do. I wanted to make
Yeah.
money and good money for that matter.
Yeah.
So the album was released the following year, in 2018, New Year's Day.
Cool.
And
Cool.
I booked another mini tour that was quite long. That was throughout the year. Um, and again, the drinking just continued. I was more excited about the hang than I was the concert. I remember I did a gig, or again, not necessarily a gig, but a residency at Virginia Commonwealth University. Okay, this is a huge university, and they hired us to do a master class as well as the concert that we were doing, which was based off the album.
Cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like a two-in-one. Like I can
Yeah.
perform the pieces from the album, and then also you can buy the album. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember going down there, and this is a huge opportunity, and just being so excited just to go out and hang and get drunk in Virginia,
Hmm.
and doing
Yeah.
that masterclass. And I feel so bad now. And if he's listening, I want to apologize to the guy that hired me anyway, because I remember the first morning waking up, we got down there pretty late, and obviously we went out and got drunk and just partied till the wee hours of the morning, and then we had to wake up and do this master class at 9, I think, or 10 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember being so hungover, talking to these kids. These are, undergraduate kids,
Yeah.
uh, you know, trying to, say shit to them that will motivate them and sort of thing.
Yeah.
And me trying to be someone that I wasn't, and that was, again, going back to that, like putting up this fake persona, trying to give people information and helpful tips, but then not dealing with my own shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what was taking place. And it was quite bad. That's when I started gaining quite a bit of weight. My health was starting to get pretty rough, breathing wise and so forth.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was 2018. Let me think. Yeah, it was there was quite a few low points too during that time. Was when my wife started mentioning some things to me. And like I said before, rock, like I didn't, like, when I first decided to stop drinking, and get help and find sobriety, it wasn't necessarily like the lowest of my low, like I made it a home, like down at rock bottom for quite a while,
Gotcha.
And that was where I lived for quite a
Yeah.
long time. And I think a lot of addicts, that's what we do. People think, it's like this one pit, it's one moment, this
Yeah.
one
It's just like boom.
major moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's no, it's all, it's a lot of little moments,
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
propel you to that decision that you need help, and I remember I started, making it home bringing that kind of behavior back home. So now I had, a 1-year-old, almost 2, and being a stay-at-home dad. And like I said, good days I would drink, and then the following day I would just be laying on the couch, and my son would be on the floor playing, and I would be laying on the couch with being hungover.
Yeah.
I remember being drunk, walking into my son's room, and waking him up for some reason. I remember I remember, all sorts of, um, horrible stories that I really don't want to talk about. I don't want to go down there,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think guilt is a good thing for anyone. So
Totally.
again, we have to accept what happened, move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
But that's when it started happening. That's when I started bringing that behavior to kind of a point, especially in my house, in my home, with my son Patrick. I remember my wife telling me multiple times, "Look, you need to do something, or I can't live like this. I can't. I'm going to leave. I'll leave you with him.
Wow. Yeah.
Which she's she's a badass. I would have left a long time before that. So, yeah, like I said, I was living at rock bottom for quite a long time,
Yeah.
especially in 2018. Then 2019 came along. I did another tour. I was drinking even more heavily. I remember, it was just unexcusable. I was losing contacts as a musician. I was losing friends. Now looking back, I remember, the person that I was becoming. Nobody really liked. Nobody wanted to be around the person that I was becoming. I was picturing myself as this one person that what I was really, I wasn't that person at all. I was living in denial.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then putting up this this kind of like I said, this shield or this mask, especially for social media, and you see that with all over the place too. People
Of course.
um, being not authentic, but that's a different story. But I was doing that, and pretending to be this one person when I was suffering from all this stuff, and that um, yeah, it was um, yeah, it was a lot. Sorry.
No, dude,
um,
it's all good. Yeah.
uh, yeah, I remember too. I always I wanted to do the Spartan race. Do you know what the Spartan race is?
Yeah. 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 I'm familiar
It was
with,
pretty
yeah,
difficult, like a CrossFit thing. And
definitely.
I remember I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to the gym like every day, and that sort of thing. This is how much denial I was in of my actions towards, not just towards other people, but towards myself.
Mm,
Of what was taking place. I was going to the gym, and then I would go home and like just have like 6 or 7 beers with dinner.
right. Yeah.
And then I was like, well,
Yeah.
why am I not losing any weight? Like,
Right.
why am I not getting better at this? I was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I actually went and did the race, and I made it 6 miles, just 6 miles. Um, Now I run 6 miles every other day.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm a big runner now.
Nice. Yeah.
But I was so in denial, and then that didn't even like open up my eye. Like, it was a lot. You know, I remember waking up one morning, with my son in my hand at the top of the steps, and my wife screaming at me, John, what are you doing? I didn't remember how I got there and how my son got in my hands.
Mm,
Um, and you would think that would be an eye-opening moment,
yep. Yeah.
but I continued to drink. This was the beginning of 2019. Throughout the summer, it was the same thing. Again, my health started decreasing, and I remember I started having chest pains,
Mm,
quite bad. Um, I was making pretty much a bed next to the toilet.
mm,
Um,
mhm.
um, Alcohol started becoming kind of a daily occurrence.
Mm.
It stopped being a good day, bad day, good day, bad day. It was kind of like an everyday thing.
Yeah.
It was just kind of what I wanted to drink. If it was a
Yeah.
beer day the day before, then it would be a wine day today.
Yeah.
Um,
Gotcha.
and it was yeah, and it what took place was a few things. Like I said, that was kind of a combination of me saying, "Wow." The first thing was I heard a podcast. I was listening to a podcast with Cameron Haynes. Do you know who that is by chance?
No, not sure.
He's
No.
he's a bow hunter. I don't hunt at all, but he's also kind of like an endurance sports athlete. He
Okay.
he
Yep.
runs. Um, he's like an everyday man. Like I think he works for an electric company, but he's a
No way.
professional bow hunter as well. But he also, like, on his lunch, he like runs like 13 miles,
Great.
every day. Every day. Yeah, he's insane.
Wow. That
But
is
yeah,
insane. Yeah.
yeah. It's quite inspirational, to be honest. And
No kidding.
I still look up to him.
Ew. Dropped out again. Hello. Hello.
You there?
I am now. Yes. So you
Okay.
just
Yeah.
mentioned you still look up to him and then you cut out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was listening to this podcast, and they were talking about, 'cause for some reason they always ask, especially like athletes, they ask you, they're like, do you drink alcohol, or what do that sort of thing. They always ask that question,
Yeah.
which I always feel is
Dropped out again. Dang it. Can you hear me?
that that kind of reassurance that they know that it's a bad and it's an issue, but they want to know, you know. But
Yeah.
Cameron was like, no, I stopped when I had my first child. And he said, the reason for that is I didn't want to be a loser father. And when I heard him say that, a certain things started kind of going through my mind. Um, I I was living as a loser father.
Mm.
I was living as a loser husband. Um, since that podcast, I started kind of um, critiquing myself and being my behavior at least, and saying to myself, "Am I going to make it for my son?
Mm.
Am I going to be there for my son, like for his prom, to teach him how to tie a tie?"
Yeah.
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 Sorry, I'm trying trying not to tear up.
Yeah.
But
No. Let it up.
um, um, like I was like, the way things are going, I'm not going to be there for him.
Mm.
And I want to be there for him during those moments, because I grew up without a mother for all mine, you know, all my pinnacle moments, all my
Yeah.
big moments. You know, graduating high school, my first girlfriend, going to college, graduating college, you know, all my performances and all that type, you know, the birth of my son, my marriage, you know, being engaged, you know, introducing Sarah to her, all that she never experienced, you know. Um, I want to be there for that, for him, you know, I want
Yeah.
to be there for him.
Mhm.
So, you know, I like to say that maybe he saved my life, my son, he's my hero. Um,
Mm.
because that was a big one for me. That was, I need to change my behavior. Now another one, there's three, like that podcast and my son, and then what was taking place at that time, a month before my sobriety our date, I started doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu,
Aha. Okay. Yeah.
for about a month before I got sober. Um, and I loved it. I was able to, uh, first and foremost, you know, if you've ever done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think you can confirm too. But there's nothing like it. You know,
Mm.
it's the ultimate martial art, I think, anyway. And
Cool.
there's
Yeah.
nowadays too. I'm so active with running and biking and swimming, and you know, like I said, like we hike all the time. But there's no better physical um, activity, or physical health than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You're going to leave that gym during it. You're going to feel like death. You know, it's going to be pretty
Yeah.
rough. You're going to
Yeah.
want to leave. But then when you do leave, you feel so energized every single time.
Interesting.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. But not just the physical aspect, but the mental health and the mental aspect. I started realizing that I could kind of battle these things in my head while I was doing it, you know, and I was kind of letting go instead of me burying the stress and anxiety, and then that stress and anxiety then increasing depression. What I was doing instead of alcohol, jujitsu was helping me kind of let go of that, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and what happened was, now don't get me wrong, I was drinking the first month that I was doing this. Okay.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, the second month came along, I had to pay for tuition. And my wife made me an ultimatum and said, "You either have jujitsu or you can pay for another case of beer." And the next morning,
Mm.
um, the next day, canceling all my plans as I normally did. And
Mm.
I remember her coming into our playroom at what it is now, and me sitting with my son and just making a decision and telling her that I needed help, you know, and
Oh. Yeah.
that I made have to make this decision, and I need to stop my behavior. And I need to stop drinking completely, um, completely. I needed to stop. Again, going back to like different low points. The past 2 years, 2018, and then the beginning of 2019, I tried stopping too. Again, I was in denial, though. I wasn't necessarily kind of it continued, So, but that was the moment. Yeah. So, since then, I went cold turkey, and I haven't drank since. So yeah,
Man,
and
it's
it was
powerful stuff.
the best decision. But besides being married and my career, and then my son, or my two sons,
Yeah.
it's probably the best decision or the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and I think it's the most thing I'm most proud of being sober.
Yeah, dude.
I've done a lot of cool shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Performances and even being a dad, but all that would not be possible, especially today, if it was not sober.
Right.
So
it's like, so that's number one, right? Because that is protecting you. Like that's who you are.
Yeah.
That you've become. And dude, yeah, I'm proud of you for sharing that story. It's amazing. Like, it's emotional. It's very, you have a lot of great detail in there as far as in just like the whole journey that you were on. And, it's, yeah, I'm glad that you're where you are, obviously. And that you take it, that shows what kind of person you are. And I want to ask you this question, but my interpretation of it shows what kind of person that you are, that you're able to turn that around like that for those reasons. So what my question for you is, what does that say about you? What does that say about you in your own opinion? What does that say about you that you were able to just go, you know what, for my family, for myself, for, for the good of everything, I'm going to stop drinking? What do you feel that says about you?
What does that say? I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know what that says about me.
Just sit with that. I don't know. It's a good question. I always like to ask it, especially when it's, yeah. Just to digest that. Get back to me. I'd love to hear what you would come up with. Just to sit on it for a bit, but
just to stop like that. I don't know. I just kind of it needed to be done, or else there's going to be quite major consequences.
Yeah.
Health related for myself. The path I was going down, either I was not going to be here, or lose everything, my family, most especially, I started. I think what it says about me is that I was finally coming to terms with who I was.
Nice.
Like, I needed to kind of strip down everything. I think everyone needs to do that. Really, find out who you are and go from there. I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
It totally does, man. That's great. I like that, stripping it down and just figuring out who you are. So another follow-up question for you. So over the last couple of years, I'm envisioning, great family time. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's emotions that are coming. It's not like it's every day is easy day. And everybody that's listening to this podcast knows that sobriety is a bumpy road as well. But at least you have more control and all the rest. But what I'm viewing is like you have, your family time now. You have much more control over your emotions, or acceptance over your emotions. I assume you're still playing music. You got Brazilian jiu-jitsu going on. You're in the mountains, so things are looking good. how has it been? How has it been though? Like, so what is it like an average day for you now? Is it like you're waking up, you're still feeling good, you're feeling, you know, some gratitude?
Mhm.
You know, how bumpy of a ride has it been, or has it been like each day you're just like learning a little bit more about yourself? What is that like? What is this this journey, this recovery journey been for you like?
Um, well, I think when I was 1 year sober, I started to realize that it never gets easier.
Mm,
Anybody that tells you that, they're lying.
yeah,
They change. The
right.
person, like,
Yeah,
either you change or you go back to that habit. You
totally.
know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, it's
100%.
that simple. I mean, you
Yeah.
think about it. Wow, yeah. So it never gets easier. Like, even today, like this morning, I went to the food market with my son, and there's they have a beer garden, they call it, at the Wise
Mm,
Market. And even then, I looked over and I can picture, I can hear it in my head, cracking open a beer bottle. I can
yeah,
hear it and I
yeah,
can smell it. I have
yeah.
the. But then what's the difference is I changed. My
Mm,
coping mechanisms changed, and saying, you know what, I'm gonna go to swim tonight, or once my wife gets home, I'm gonna go swim, and I'm gonna hammer out 16 laps. You know
nice.
what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm gonna be a
yeah,
complete badass and come home and then do a podcast with my man Matt.
yeah, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, that's the person that I am. I know who
Mm,
I am. I'm not that person anymore. That person is
yeah,
no longer here. You know what I mean?
right, right. I gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
so it never gets easier. But there are definitely some rough days. But all in all, they're all good days. You know,
Yeah, I like that.
um,
There's some rough
they're all
days, but
good
they're all
days.
good days. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
like,
cool, man. Yeah,
um, well, there's always something to be thankful for, is really what I'm trying to say.
totally.
There's always something to be thankful for. Um, I don't think rough is the right word. Stressful, maybe is
Stressful.
a better
Yeah. No, no, for
word.
sure. For sure. How has it been for you as far as like your emotions? Like, because we're talking a lot about burying as like a subject throughout this interview that we've done, but you've also
Mhm.
sort of alluded to like, yeah, stripping down, you got to dig it up.
Yeah,
At some point, you're addressing this. Have you had an opportunity to address some of these, these things that have been haunting you, quite frankly, for the
yeah,
most of your life? Yeah, good, good. And it was
yeah. No, I have. Yeah, yeah. I've talked a lot about, especially with my wife, about my mother, coming to terms with that, and understanding kind of why what had to happen. Um, you know, embracing the heartache too of that,
Yep.
losing my mother at a young age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Emotion wise, I pretty much say what I need to say. If I don't, um, I think I obviously think it through though beforehand. Um,
Yeah.
but I found that, with the mental aspect of things and burying it down, physical activity for me has been a great benefactor.
Release.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of me burying it down, I can kind of come face to face with it, if it's either with Brazilian jiu-jitsu or running. With the pandemic, I started running, and now I'm constantly running. I just did 2 half marathons the past
Nice.
2 months, and yeah,
Wow.
now
It's
now I'm getting
badass.
ready. Now I'm getting ready for a triathlon.
It's
So
crazy, man. Good for you.
I've been swimming, and
Yeah.
so physical activity has been really kind of my saving grace when it comes to anxiety, and so or emotions and bearing them down. Because
Yeah.
when with physical activity, um, you can kind of come face to face with them. You know what I mean? And kind
Yep.
of, um, yeah, deal with that pain. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
I've also with certain things too. I've kind of, like I said, I've accepted the path that I've been put on, instead of
Mm.
kind of trying to find someone else and kind of mimic them. You know,
Yeah.
I'm creating my own person that I want, that I enjoy.
Yes.
That the John, when I was 8, before my mother passed away, that John,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that that nerdy John that loves superheroes and Star Wars, you know, and
Nice.
then
Yeah.
like we'll talk about it at a party with like 20 people, or my mother and father-in-law will look at me because I'm 31 years old and I'm talking about the new episode of Boba Fett. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the person that I am, you know, and I'm happy. I'm excited about that. Music wise and trumpet wise has been a little less, to be honest with you. I don't have any
Interesting.
desire. I haven't had too much desire to do certain things. I've also, you know, I found, you know, if that's not my path, and that's not my path, you know, maybe so long I forced that path.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because I thought maybe that was the only way to go, you know,
Gotcha.
even though I
Gotcha.
wasn't kind of realizing what was taking place at the time. But it's been, like I said, there's stressful days, you know. This past year, my son was diagnosed with ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
he's autistic. He's extremely bright, and he's my oldest son Patrick. And so going through some kind of hoops for that was a bit stressful. But you know, we were all together with it. You know,
Yeah.
again, because I got sober, none of what is taking place today in my life, all the things just in 2.5 years that I've accomplished and done with my family, as well as my own personal goals, would not have been possible. It would have never happened.
Yeah. Amazing.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and so every day is a good day. I'm so grateful just to wake up and you know, be with my wife and, you know, my two boys. Like I said, last year, my youngest was born, Arthur. He wouldn't have been here.
Right.
He
Yeah.
he wouldn't
Okay.
he
Yeah.
wouldn't have been born if I didn't get sober.
Yeah. Right. It's
And he's
amazing, isn't it?
the happiest little guy. He's the
Yeah.
happiest baby.
Yeah.
Every parent says that, you know. Every parent says,
Yeah. Well, of
my kid
course.
is the cutest and the
Right.
happiest, and but
Personal
he
bias, I'm sure, is somewhere
but
in
he
there. Yeah.
really is, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
He,
That's
he's
awesome, man.
he's the
So
best.
good.
Yeah.
Dude, amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Just your honesty. I love the amount of detail that you can have. You have a good like roadmap. You remember, okay, then this, you know, this time period and all that. So super cool. I love hearing about the musician stuff. It really relates to that. It's like the tormented artist. It's like this need to like you say, the imitation reflecting
Mhm.
life almost. You know, that kind of sense of it. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
totally see that, right? I can totally resonate with that. I think any musician will be like, yeah, I get that. I get that. And just the way you're able to pull it together, man. And just I can't thank you enough for your time tonight. And it's great to get to know you. And
Um, man, thank you, man. Thank you so
yeah,
much. I appreciate it. I'm very touched that you wanted to talk to me. Actually, I was telling my wife earlier, I was like, I can't believe he wants to talk to me out of all people, which is awesome. And you know, I really, like I said, I'm really touched that you wanted to chat. Um,
of
about
course,
my
man.
journey. And like when we first kind of communicated, if this, you know, as long as the goal is helping others, you know, and if
Yeah.
they're able to get just one little light out of the darkness that they're experiencing with my story, then me talking about it is totally, it's worth it, right? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
The way
yeah.
I see it is, especially like when you mentioned the part about like when you heard something on a podcast, to me, I'm like, well, somebody might listen to this podcast and that's going to resonate
Yeah.
with them. And you're saying it's like your son was like the trifecta, your son hearing that on the podcast, that influential character in your life, and the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, like those three things as your like recipe for success. And then of course, the moment that you had your, you know, come to God moment, so to speak, with your wife in the room and all that, that's going to resonate with a lot of people. Your story itself, like just really getting physically active, transformation of your body, doing it for your family, you know, there's going to be tons of stuff, man, that people are going to really, really dig. And
Yeah.
that's why, you know, great. I had no idea some of this stuff. You just look like an interesting guy on Instagram, but the fact like you have quite the story, man. So you should be proud of yourself. And for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Cause that's a lot for you to take on and to turn around. So
That
yeah,
means the world.
solid,
That
man.
means the world. Yeah.
Solid,
Bravo
man.
to you. Bravo to you too.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
doing
dude.
this podcast.
Yeah.
You know, I've read a book recently. It was because I'm a huge avid reader ever since the podcast. So, or not the podcast. I'm sorry, the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I read constantly. I normally read a book and then I'll listen to an audiobook. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
two books going at once. So
Yeah.
I was listening to I think her name's Catherine Gray. Catherine, I forget her last name, but I can text you the.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
But it's called The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober. I'm not
Ooh,
sure if you know that book.
I haven't heard of it, but I'll check it out.
She talks about her journey, and she also has some statistics and tips and so forth. And I guess you want to call them tips. I don't know, but it's a very, very good book, and she does a great job narrating it. 'Cause it's our own story anyway. But in
Yeah.
the first chapter, she says that there's unlike in the past, there's kind of this movement of like, I'm not anonymous,
Yep. Yeah.
like and she, for a long time, especially my first year of sobriety, I thought maybe I was doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I think as addicts and alcoholics, we have a tendency, it just comes with the territory that we're very self-conscious,
Totally. Yeah. Good point.
and we
Yeah.
have the imposter syndrome, like
Yeah.
maybe I'm doing this wrong, I don't belong here, that type of thing.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So I was like, well, I never went to a meeting, I never went to AA. There was moments where I thought maybe I should. Before I did actually found sobriety, I looked where to go and so forth, but I never went to a meeting. And in her book, she talks about how we're all different. We all have different ways of getting, finding peace, finding ourselves and finding our own sobriety, right?
Yeah.
Our journey,
Yes. Yeah.
So she talks about that in there, and she talks about how there's this movement of kind of reaching out to others and being not anonymous. And I think what you're doing is just that, and helping the community. And I just want to thank you, for this podcast, because
Totally, man.
there's not too many out there. And believe it or not, I was going to tell you before we started, but I listened to a few of them. So I have listened to the other episode that you put up.
Oh,
so,
nice. Thanks, man.
yeah,
Appreciate
yeah,
that. Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it. So
I appreciate that.
bravo, man. Yeah, I think that's great what you're doing. So
Yeah, thanks, dude. And yeah, I think you're right. Like I love that idea that people are. And when I was taken aback, like when I went on Instagram and started, I'm like, well, like maybe I can find a few guests here. And I just blew my mind, because like how many people are proud and open about it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. It made me feel like better about myself too, right? Because I've always been kind of, up until recently, same as you, I was kind of, I don't know if I should, be telling people, I watch who I tell people. And now I'm just like straight up. I'm like, no, fucking, this is big part of me now. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's permission, I totally get what you mean as far as, it's a good point. I've never heard anybody actually verbalize it like that, though. It's like we have, as addicts, we always feel like we're like out of place. And that's probably one of the reasons we use a substance in the first place. So as a result, sobriety, we feel like we're doing it wrong too, right? It's so funny, man. I've never thought of it that way. But dude, thank you so much for your time. And you know what? Well, I always say, like with all my guests, we'll keep in touch, because it's always good to kind of, maybe on your third birthday there, we'll do a quick check-in, right? Now we have the backstory, so we can really focus on different parts of your story. And I'd love to have you on again, of course.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Awesome, man. Take care, John.
Take care.